Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the AM Report with Alex Mahajer for Haps News, the network of now. It is Wednesday, November 18th, and this morning we will be discussing Reverend Raphael Warnock. He's the candidate for Senate, the United States Senate in Georgia. He's going up in a runoff election against Republican Senator Kelly Leffler in January, and the entire state of the United States Senate, the power dynamics of the Senate, and the future of Joe Biden's administration and his agenda all really hinge on two Senate seats that are up for election, a runoff election in Georgia, which could determine a 50-50 split in the United States Senate and give the Vice President, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, the tie-breaking vote, and finally, after long last, give Democrats control in that chamber and the potential to give Joe Biden an agenda, the freedom to practice an agenda. So we'll be discussing Reverend Raphael Warnock this morning and discussing all of today's top headlines, all of this and more on the AM Report. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the AM Report. I'm Alex Mahajer. On this lovely Wednesday morning, we'll be discussing Reverend Raphael Warnock. He's the candidate for Senate, U.S. Senate in Georgia this morning. But first, today's headlines, and we've got a lot to cover this morning, so let's just jump right in. It looks like the acting defense secretary, Christopher Miller, has announced yesterday that thousands of troops will be withdrawn from Afghanistan and Iraq by January 15th, just a week before President-elect Joe Biden is inaugurated. It's raising a lot of speculation that Trump is seeking to make a lot of big foreign policy moves by the end of his term. The reasoning, the strategy behind it, not clear. Republicans seem to be sort of upset about this announcement. Democrats, of course, more favorable of drawing down troops from Afghanistan. On Tuesday, Trump fired Christopher Krebs. He's the director of the Department of Homeland Security agency that provides election cybersecurity. And Krebs has publicly been rebutting false claims about election fraud and hacking in their DHS blog about the 2020 election. So the move is seen as purely retribution. Republicans last night on the Wayne County Board of Canvassers in Michigan tried an election heist, attempting to only certify votes from the white suburbs of mostly black Detroit. But this caused a lot of uproar almost immediately. And in real time, there was a massive public outcry. These two Republicans on the Wayne County Board of Canvassers were being shamed publicly in the middle of the meeting. And by the end, they reversed the decision and agreed to certify the results of the election. So we can all take a sigh of relief there. Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican from Iowa, has tested positive for COVID-19. He's 87 years old. He's the president pro tempore and the most senior Republican in the Senate. And he is now one of two senators who's in quarantine because of the coronavirus. And this has really caused some problems. Donald Trump's nominee to the Federal Reserve Board, Judy Shelton, couldn't get the votes to get confirmed in the Senate yesterday in a 50-47 vote. And it was a real blow to Trump and Mitch McConnell, and really because Grassley couldn't be there. And soon, Senator-elect Mark Kelly from Arizona will be seated in his seat because he ran in a special election. And because of that, Republicans might not have the votes to confirm this nominee. Some discord before Joe Biden takes office. So all in all, nevertheless, that's our headlines this morning. And this morning, we're going to be discussing Reverend Raphael Warnock. During the broadcast, if you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, Periscope, leave me a comment. Let me know what you're thinking so we can bat around. Or if you're watching on the Haps platform or app, you can actually click the award button and let me know. It shows up on screen. Let me know what you're thinking of the broadcasts and let me know you're watching so we can chat. For instance, we've got a comment right now from a commenter that lives in Georgia and is voting for Ossoff and Warnock to flip the Senate blue. Go blue. Daniel Goff, frequent viewer. Good morning, Daniel, says Democrats need a mandate. That that is what the Democrats are trying to do with these 2 Senate seats. So here's what's going on with these elections in Georgia, as if things weren't confusing enough. So Georgia's got these weird rules, election laws, that say that if no candidate gets above 50% of the vote in the general election, which happened November 3rd, obviously, that the top 2 candidates go to a runoff election. Now, we know that Joe Biden eked out a victory in Georgia with about 16,000 votes, upset in Georgia. And there were 2 Senate races. One was between John Ossoff, Democrat, seeking to unseat Republican Senator David Perdue. The other is a special election that is because of a Republican senator that vacated this seat, and Senator Kelly Loeffler, who is sitting on that seat now, was appointed in January of this year, just January of this year. She's an appointee. She wasn't elected. She was sworn into office on January 6th. And now this is the special election to actually elect someone to that seat. And Kelly Loeffler really don't know how to say her name. Is it Loeffler or Leffler? I don't know. But Kelly Loeffler. We're going to say Loeffler, everybody, okay? She was sworn in on January 6th. She's an appointee. She's a very hard right Republican. And there's a lot of controversy around this seat. It is going to the runoff in January because neither she nor Reverend Warnock were able to get above 50% of the vote. But Reverend Warnock did do better than she did in this race. She just couldn't break the 50% threshold. So now this is going up for a January 5th runoff election where Democrats are very, very interested in making sure that this happens. So a little bit about Kelly Loeffler that I find very troubling, and it's something that Reverend Warnock has been really railing on in his campaign. She was sworn in on January 6th. She didn't make a single stock transaction for 18 days. I'll note she's a billionaire and the wealthiest member of Congress by a lot, okay? So she didn't make any stock transactions for weeks. And then on January 24th, she received a confidential briefing on the threat of the coronavirus and immediately started dumping millions of dollars worth of stocks. She publicly downplayed the coronavirus, which we now know the Republicans in power understood to be very deadly, but she was downplaying it publicly, all the while getting rid of a total of $3.1 million in stocks right before the stock market crashed in March. So this has raised a lot of questions. She has been accused by some of insider trading. We know that the Justice Department responsible for enforcing these kinds of laws is not exactly a reliable one with Attorney General Bill Barr. He's a Trump lackey. So in comes Reverend Raphael Warnock, and let's discuss a little bit about the Reverend. Reverend Warnock, Sr., charming guy, gotta say. He was born July 23rd, 1969. He's from Savannah, Georgia. He grew up in public housing as the 11th of 12 children. He graduated with a BA in psychology from Morehouse College, historically black college or university, and also where Martin Luther King Jr. went to school. He got his master's degree in divinity, a master's degree in philosophy, and a doctorate in philosophy from the Union Theological Seminary. And then in 2005, he became the senior pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. Ebenezer Baptist Church is, of course, the same church that Martin Luther King Jr. was a pastor in the 1960s. And Reverend Warnock has said that he wishes to follow in Martin Luther King Jr.'s footsteps, that he views him as a role model. And that makes sense because he really came to prominence in Georgia politics as a leader in the campaign to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. So in March 2014, he actually led a sit-in at the Georgia State Capitol to press state legislators to accept the expansion of Medicaid offered by the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. And he was actually arrested during that protest. He's also worked with the New Georgia Project, which has been on the ground for a decade or more in Georgia, seeking to register all eligible voters of color in Georgia within the decade. And I actually had the honor of interviewing Billy Honor from the New Georgia Project last week. If you want, you can check it out. Let's see, a lot of people chiming in this morning. as celebrities are always told to stay out of politics, how often are you told to stay out, George Clooney? I just got that. Yeah, you silly goose. Christopher Aguilar says, it's so informative. Thank you, Christopher. If you're watching this broadcast anywhere, you can comment. Let me know what you're thinking. Chime in about these Georgia Senate races. What are your thoughts? Or if you're on the Habs platform, click the award button. Let me know you're enjoying it. Like Daniel Goff. Thank you for the Appreciate You Award. Reverend Warnock loves puppies, says Daniel. And Senator Perdue sold his stock also. More insider trading, says Showtime D Wiz. Yeah, these two senators in Georgia have some splaining to do. But Reverend Warnock, a little bit of his background I just gave you. So he's a faith leader. He is really not a part of the political establishment, but a lot of experience as an activist. But let's look at a little bit at just why he is so good. Let's see if we can find that. We have some video. Well, we'll look up that video in a second, but what are your thoughts on this? Let me know. He's definitely just a real he's a real leader in the community and somebody that can be respected. And so this election is going to come up on January 5th, and there if you are on your November absentee registration in order to vote again by mail in Georgia. So we also know that there's a lot of voter suppression that happens in the state of Georgia. In Georgia, there has been historic amounts of voter suppression, including from the governor, who is Brian Kemp, who as Secretary of State oversaw his own gubernatorial election, and is known for his attempts to suppress the vote through voter cross-check purges and other means targeting people of color. And people like Stacey Abrams from Fair Fight Action have been on the ground there ever since her gubernatorial loss to register voters and to make sure it's more representative of the population. But now we've got that clip. So let's see a clip of Reverend Raphael Warnock on CNN with Jake Tapper talking about attacks coming in from Kelly Leffler and what he's going to do for Georgia in the U.S. Senate.
The comments like what we just heard from Senator Schumer nationalizing your race, doesn't that hurt you?
Listen, this is a Georgia race, and I'm Georgia. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia. My church is in Atlanta. I'm pastor of the spiritual home of Martin Luther King Jr. I grew up in public housing. One of 12 children in my family. I'm number 11 and the first graduate of a 4-year college in my family. I know personally the importance of good federal policy combined with personal responsibility, work, grit, and determination. That's the reason I'm able to run for the United States Senate. I am an iteration of the American dream, and I'm running for the Senate because that promise is slipping away from far too many people. That's what this race is about. The fact of the matter is, Jake, voters don't vote for politicians. This race is not about me, and Chuck Schumer's name certainly isn't on the ballot. I'll tell you what's on the ballot. Healthcare is on the ballot. Access to affordable health care. We've got 500,000 Georgians in the Medicaid gap. We've got 1.8 million Georgians with pre-existing conditions. And if Kelly Leffler has her way, people who have asthma, people who have hypertension, diabetes, these are folks in my family and in my church, folks who are survivors of cancer, may find themselves without health care. And that's what this race is about, and that's what I will continue to lift up even as I move across the great state of Georgia. People are responding to that message, and that's why we are in such a strong position. She'll try every desperate attack that she can make, but this race is about the people of Georgia.
Yeah.
And she has been attacking him and trying to, much like we saw in the general election and the general strategy of the president and other Republicans throughout the country, trying to tie Reverend Warnock to the radical left, which, you know, is a little tone deaf when he comes from Atlanta and follows in the footsteps of Martin Luther King Jr., who you could certainly call a radical, but who almost universally we acknowledge as being a standard bearer for civil rights and a lion of the civil rights movement, whose work profoundly changed the country, or at least moved it in the right direction, whose words we try to live by in seeking a more just and verdant society for people. And so Warnock is really well positioned to unseat Kelly Loeffler. And I'll note, she has accepted a debate. She will debate him on December 6th. A stark contrast between Ossoff's race with Senator Perdue. We got a comment about this. Yes, John Ossoff's opponent, Republicans, David Perdue, will not debate him, is too afraid to debate him. But this December 6th debate will continue forward as planned. And so all eyes are on Georgia. Stacey Abrams, I like to call her the Queen of Georgia. She has tweeted a couple days ago that more than 600,000 Georgians have requested their mail ballots for the January 5th runoff election, giving people the ballotrequest.sos.ga.gov link to request their absentee ballots. And the deadlines are fast approaching for people who are in Georgia and who are interested in voting in these two races. And this image is courtesy of the Elect Warnock Ossoff Facebook group, which I'm sure everyone from that group is watching. Good morning, everybody. So we got November 18th is the deadline to request your absentee ballot using the link I just gave you. December 7th is the voter registration deadline period. Early in-person voting begins December 14th. And then the final day to vote in person is election day, January 5th, 2021. So all eyes are on Georgia, and we'll see what happens with those two races, but they could really determine the fate of the country for at least the next couple of years. And so this has been the AM Report for HAPS News, the network of now. I'm Alex Mahajer. We are live every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern, with all of your quick political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, please consider sponsoring it or subscribing. Visit me at haps.tv/@Alex to subscribe. And would love to see you all every morning. Thanks so much for joining, and we will see you all tomorrow.